Hello everyone. Thank you for watching the video. Wishing you all good health and peace. Ju-han stood in front of her house, holding her baby in her arms, quietly watching as the local health official carefully sprayed mosquito repellent around the porch, the garden, and even the chicken coop. Thin white mist drifted through the air, clinging to the cracks in the bamboo walls of the small house. She took a step back, shielding her baby, waiting for the fumes to fade before going back inside. Once it was done, she quickly gathered her things, wrapped her baby securely in the sling across her chest, and stepped out onto the red dirt path, heading toward the community health center. Today was vaccination day. She knew it would hurt, but it was something she had to do. While waiting, she gently comforted her baby, softly stroking the fine hairs on the child's head. When it was their turn, she held the baby tightly as the nurse administered the shot into the tiny arm. The baby cried out, and Ju-han whispered gently, soothing the child with quiet words. Soon the crying stopped, and the baby nestled into her chest, seeking warmth. On the way back, she stopped by the home of an elderly woman in the village, someone she had arranged to watch the baby for a while. The woman looked at the child, reached out to take the baby, and gave a small nod. Ju-han gently laid her child down, whispered a few instructions, her eyes revealing a quiet nervousness. Today, after many years apart, she was going to visit her parents. Back home, she changed into her traditional dress, tightened the sash around her waist, and stepped out the door. Her bare feet moved across the familiar footpaths that wound through the hills. The grass and trees were still as green as she remembered, but her heart felt heavy with unspoken thoughts. In the distance, her parents' old house appeared behind a row of trees, barely visible under the soft morning sunlight. Taking a deep breath, she walked faster, emotions swelling inside her, feelings she couldn't quite name. Under the harsh midday sun, Ju-han carefully walked along the dirt path leading to her parents' home. She wore her traditional brocade dress, and her steps quickened as the old house came into view. It had been a long time since she last returned. She didn't know if her parents were still angry with her. As she reached the gate, she saw her father sitting on the front steps, his eyes stern, gazing off into the distance. Her grandmother sat inside, quietly sipping tea. Ju-han greeted them, but there was no warm welcome. Silently, she made her way into the kitchen, scooped a bowl of rice, rinsed it, and set a pot of porridge on the stove. The fire crackled as smoke drifted faintly through the air. She stirred the pot with care, adding a pinch of salt and a handful of greens. She brought the steaming bowl to her grandmother and gently placed it in front of her. But the old woman only glanced at it, then suddenly knocked it over. The porridge spilled onto the floor, and Ju-han's hand froze midair. Her grandmother was angry, scolding her for not coming home for so long, but how could she know everything Ju-han had been through? Biting her lip, Ju-han silently knelt and cleaned up the mess without a word. She returned to the kitchen and ladled another bowl, this one for her father. They sat across from each other in silence. No conversation, only the sound of spoons clinking against bowls and the wind whistling through the wooden shutters. When they finished eating, she stood up and stepped into the garden. By the pond, a group of geese waddled noisily. Ju-han grabbed handfuls of feed and scattered it over the water. The geese clamored, honking loudly as they fought over the food. Farm work never stopped. She moved on to harvesting cashew nuts, dropping each one into her basket with a soft thud. The ripe golden fruit smelled sweet, stirring childhood memories, back when she still lived at home, untouched by life's harsh turns. After collecting the cashews, she headed to the pigsty, slicing banana stalks into thin strips, mixing them with bran to cook feed for the pigs. She poured water into a large pot and lit the fire. The heat from the stove rose sharply, and sweat formed on her brow, but she stayed focused, stirring the mixture carefully to keep it from burning. Once everything seemed settled, she decided to head into the forest to gather medicinal leaves, hoping to earn a bit of money. With a basket on her back, Ju-han moved through the dense trees, her hands swiftly picking the herbs she recognized. On her way back, she suddenly caught sight of a familiar figure, her ex-husband. Her steps faltered, heart-pounding. He was standing in the front yard, speaking loudly to her father. Ju-han quickened her pace. By the time she reached the gate, he had turned to face her, his eyes full of anger. He launched into a story, accusing her of terrible things, claiming she had been cast out for her wrongdoings. Her father didn't wait for an explanation. Just the sight of the man was enough to enrage him. He threw her clothes into the yard and growled, "You are no longer my daughter. Leave. Don't come back." Ju-han stood frozen, tears welling in her eyes. She couldn't speak, couldn't defend herself. Slowly, she picked up her scattered belongings and silently placed a small bundle of money, her last savings, into her father's hand. Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked away. Her footsteps were heavy, and there was no place left to return to, except her humble makeshift home. Carrying her baby, Ju-han stepped out of the house and headed toward the distant kapok forest. She walked slowly, carefully placing each step, mindful not to disturb the child sleeping peacefully in the sling. Overhead, the tall kapok trees swayed gently, their golden ripe pods hanging low, ready for harvest. She paused, set down her basket, and picked up a long pole, using it to knock down the fluffy pods. One by one, the pods dropped with soft thuds. She bent down to gather them, her hands quickly peeling away the outer shells to reveal the pure white cotton inside. She packed the cotton into her basket, occasionally wiping sweat from her brow. The forest breeze was cool, but her heart felt heavy. A sense of unease crept in, like someone was silently watching her every move. In the distance, hidden behind the trees, a shadow moved. His eyes glinted with malice as he watched her. Ju-han's ex-husband had found where she lived. He stood behind a tree trunk, gaze cold and calculating. Unaware of the danger lurking nearby, Ju-han continued harvesting, carefully filling the basket with cotton. As she looked up, she suddenly shivered, as if someone had just slipped out of sight. She glanced around, alert, but saw nothing out of place. Thinking it was just her imagination, she hoisted the basket onto her back, adjusted the baby in the sling, and began the walk home. From afar, her ex-husband followed silently. His footsteps light on the earth, his eyes filled with rage. He wasn't ready to confront her yet. He was waiting for the right moment. Back home, Ju-han laid her baby down on the mat and began cutting fabric to stuff with the kapok and make pillows. Focused on her stitching, she didn't realize someone had slipped inside. Her ex-husband crept around the house, rummaging through her things. When he found the pouch of money hidden at the bottom of a chest, he shoved it into his pocket. She turned around and froze. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice trembling. He didn't answer. He smirked, then ran for the door. She lunged to grab the money, but he was stronger. He shoved her to the ground. Clutching her stomach in pain, she could only watch as he stuffed the pouch into his shirt. Not stopping there, he kicked over some of her belongings in a fit of rage. Then he slammed the door shut and locked it from the outside. "Stay in there and cry," he growled before stepping onto the porch, stretching out with a bottle of liquor in hand. Holding her baby tightly, Ju-han's mind raced. She couldn't stay trapped. She scanned the room and remembered the bamboo floorboards. One of them could be lifted. Wasting no time, she gently raised a slat, careful not to make a sound. The night was cold, the wind cutting through the darkness. She slipped out, secured her baby to her back, and crept away. Her figure slowly disappeared into the shadows, swallowed by the hazy road ahead. Back at the house, her ex-husband stumbled inside, calling out, but no one answered. Enraged, he kicked over pots and pans, smashed a stack of bowls, and stormed into the yard. He yanked up rows of vegetables she had planted, stomping the roots into the dirt. In a drunken rage, he tore through the firewood pile, then flipped the small table she used for cooking. Finally, he collapsed on the ground, muttering curses. "Trying to run from me? Let's see how far you get," he sneered, his bloodshot eyes blazing with anger. Meanwhile, Ju-han pressed forward, her feet stumbling along the rough dirt path. She had no idea where she was going, only that she had to get far away from there. Her baby stirred in the sling, and she gently patted the child's back, trying to calm both of them. The cold night wind stung her skin, and her body trembled with exhaustion and hunger. Unable to continue, she stopped beneath a large tree by the roadside, pulled out a thin cloth to cover her baby, and looked around. No lights, no houses in sight. Her legs gave out, and she sank to the ground, leaning back against the tree. She took the last piece of bread from her bag, broke off a small bit, and put it in her mouth, but it was so dry she could barely swallow. Holding her baby close, her eyes slowly grew heavy. Darkness blanketed the world around them, and the road ahead remained uncertain. But would life really let her stay in this darkness forever? Stay tuned to find out what happens next in Duhan's story.
Cuộc đời là một con đường dài, nơi giấc mơ hòa tan thực tại. Buồng bước chân ta bắt xây dần bức tranh vẽ lên thử thách lớn. Những nỗi đau niềm vui tạm bợ tạo nên muôn màu sắc cuộc đời. Dù cuộc sống đôi khi thử thách, những đam mê vẫn trực trào cháy. Hãy sống với đam mê cháy bỏng, đừng chờ đợi mà hãy thực hiện những khoảnh khắc quý giá lắm, đừng để thời gian trôi xa. Giữa bộn bề cuộc sống tìm chút bình yên, trong trái tim lặng lẽ nơi còn phiền. Giọt sương mai đọng trên lá xanh, đem lại niềm vui cuộc sống vắng tanh. Ánh sáng mặt trời dọi qua mây, dù mưa rông vẫn đang đong đầy. Trong lòng chứa đầy hy vọng, ngày mai sáng tươi chờ đợi ta. Bước đi trên con đường đầy hoa, dẫu khó khăn không lùi bước. Trong tim giữ trọn niềm tin,